The complexity of memory could now be dissected into its component processes. First, input must be encoded, put into memory codes that can be registered by the brain. Then it must be stored and retained for some period of time, ranging from a moment to a lifetime. And finally, it must be retrieved on demand when it's needed. There are also two kinds of memory. Long-term memory is the storehouse of everything you know about the world and yourself, and is essentially unlimited. In theory, anything you have experienced which is stored in long-term memory is available for later recall. To understand the process of retrieval, try picturing your long-term memory as your own private library. But instead of information stored in books, some researchers believe it is stored and represented in the form of networks. In these associative networks, each piece of information or concept is linked to a family of others that share some common properties. Activating any of the concepts in the network activates the others associated with them. This activation process spreads automatically and rapidly, not only within networks, but also across to others that are linked in any way meaningful to the individual. In order for me to become consciously aware of the outcome of this activation process, in order for me to identify and understand what's going on around me, something more than long-term memory is needed. That's because long-term memory is like a passive storehouse of information and not an active information dispatcher. So we need a second memory system. We need a short-term memory. Short-term memory is the transient working memory that holds all the knowledge currently in use. All new information, those things we're paying attention to right now, must first pass through this narrow channel. And the information we retrieve from our long-term memory must also pass through here for inspection. But short-term memory has two major limitations. First, only a small amount of information can be held there. And second, the information can only be held for a short amount of time. It fades as soon as we shift our attention elsewhere. The new always pushes out the old. Still, our short-term working memory is an essential part of our psychological present. It links separate stimuli into episodes and then into stories as we engage in conversations, work, read, play, and just take in the world. Short-term memory does all this, yet it still cannot hold anything for more than about half a minute. And it can only store from 5 to 9 items, with an average of 7. So how can we get around these limitations of short-term memory? First, our memories can be held for a longer time if we rehearse the new information carefully without distractions. And second, more information can be held if we group items according to some pattern or something we're already familiar with. This is a process called chunking. A chunk can be a word, a meaningful phrase, or a number sequence. And 7 chunks can have a lot more information in them than 7 items. For instance, after I say the following sequence aloud, I want you to repeat it back to me number for number. Here goes. 1, 7, 7, 6, 1, 8, 1, 2, 1, 8, 6, 1, 1, 9, 1, 4, 1, 9, 4, 1. It's tough, isn't it? Now I wonder how well you do if I read the sequence this way. 1776, 1812, 1861, 1914, 1941. Instead of 20 numbers to remember, you have only 5 dates. Instead of 20 bits, 5 chunks of familiar information from American history.